Good afternoon, everybody. This is Bonnie Vandermeulen, Training Coordinator for Wisconsin Facets. For our entire Wisconsin Facets staff, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. Today's webinar is entitled Dreaming and Redreaming with Your Special Needs Child. Our presenter today is Tim Markle. Tim has worked for the Waisman Center for over 10 years, including the last 3 as the director of the Southern Regional Center for Children and Youth with Special Health Care Needs. He is married and has 2 children, one of whom has special needs. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you Tim Markle. Tim?
Thank you so much, Bonnie. Besides the fact that I am a father, I am a director, I also appreciate the fact that Facets has asked me to be here today, and I am thrilled to be able to work with their organization. So dreaming and redreaming. I am sure this is a common sort of thought, and that as parents, especially, as you heard the title, you're probably like, this is what we do. And this is what we do. So what I want to do today is just walk you sort of through my story, my son's story, some things that I've learned and picked up along the way, hoping that they will help you along the way or help those that you work with. Hopefully we can have some sort of discussion over chat. If you have questions, please put them into the chat box. We'll get to them as appropriate during the presentation. But really, this is, I hope to be more of a conversation than a presentation for you. So let's go ahead and introduce you to Hunter. There's my awesome kid. So born December 23rd, 1997. Now I have another awesome kid. She is 18 months younger than Hunter. You'll notice Hunter's full name, Hunter Timothy Markle. So he was already under a lot of pressure when he got named. I was very excited that my wife allowed me to have the middle name Timothy. It was very important to me. I didn't realize how important it was and how much it affected me until we started to have Hunter grow up. So we took him home. We brought him home on Christmas Day of 1997. He was fine. All the tests were fine. He had a little bilirubin problem, so he was our little glowworm for a while in that little blanket, and that was enough to freak me out. If only I had known what was coming up. At one, very happy, seemed to be hitting milestones, very little worries. My little brown-eyed boy that I inserted into my wife's totally Scandinavian blue-eyed family. They were none too pleased, but we made it up with our blonde-haired, blue-eyed daughter next to, so they still allowed me to stay in the family. But as far as we knew, with Hunter being our first, everything was fine. And then he turned close to 3. We were noticing he was having some hand grip problems. My wife was in education, and so she noticed some of that. You could see that his little sister is there in the crib with him now. They weren't in the crib together, but they liked to play in the crib together, but they slept separate. But we had a friend in special education who came to us and said, you know, you might want to consider having Hunter tested. Now, she knew Hunter really well. Her kids grew up with my kids. Our kids grew up together. And so when she said that, I can still remember the confusion. I could still remember the, oh no, the sinking of my stomach, not knowing what would happen, not knowing what this meant. So we took him to our doctor, and nothing much came out of that. He had always been a small kid. As we put it, is he always had his own sort of growth chart. And so we go in and we look where the normal growth chart was, and Hunter would be below that. But he was growing in the right direction. So nobody was really worried. Wait and see. We had the good old wait and see years ago. So we ended up taking him to the school system to get tested for early childhood to see if they would find any delays. And so we decided to go ahead and take that step and say, okay, what's going on? And they said, sure enough, we would love to have him in our class, not just because he's a delightful kid, which he is, and he's got a personality like none other, but because you really can't understand him. He's got speech issues. He definitely needs some occupational therapy and some physical therapy. His gross motor isn't where it's supposed to be. But there really wasn't any diagnosis. There was no obvious signs of anything. So we put him in early childhood, and pretty much from early childhood, again, lovely kid, great personality. But all of these skills deficits, all of these developmental delays that he was having. From early childhood, he moved into a private kindergarten where his mom was the teacher. Now, this was good and bad. It was fantastic because we had someone who really knew how to deal with him when he was having struggles, when we have trouble with the other classmates. The downside was at the beginning, the school system would send over predominantly a speech therapist. We had to do the physical and occupational. They passed him out of that. He just barely got good enough. You know how that goes. He got good enough that he didn't need help, but it certainly didn't help his development to not have that therapy. We didn't understand that at the time. So the school system would send out the speech therapist. They would do group speech therapy. Then in first grade at the same private school, they're like, oh, we can't do that anymore. But if you take him over to the school, then we can see him there. And so we'd do that because he loved his speech therapist. And sure enough, he was starting to get a little more intelligible, that people could understand him. One of his grandmothers was just so very frustrated that she couldn't understand him. She's like, he is so lovely, but I don't know a word that he's saying. And so that was, having just one minor struggle with the family. That and trying to help them figure out that he's really not going to die if he does not try turkey for Thanksgiving dinner. It's okay. He can have bread. We really don't need to be part of the Clean Plate Club. And trying to help the relatives understand that. Well, we ended up moving to Madison, and he went to Sandburg Elementary. Sandburg was a mix of some fantastic stuff. They did some further testing on him. His fourth and fifth grade teachers were fantastic. His third grade, not so much. In the sense that they expected that there wasn't anything different about him when it was obvious there were some things that were different about him. And so it's the same expectations, the threats to get the homework done or else. With the fine motor skills, he was having trouble keeping up with writing. It was a trial, and we didn't have an IEP yet. So we ended up getting an IEP meeting, and we got an IEP meeting, and we started to talk about where are his deficits, the normal IEP meeting at the beginning. And they wanted to have further testing for autism. So we said, go ahead and do that. And also had him tested with our neuropsych. And the neuropsych said, no, he does have anxiety. So he's an anxious little kid, but no, it doesn't fit autism. So we're like, okay. The school said, oh yeah, definitely autism. And so there we were stuck with the school assessment and a medical diagnosis that didn't match. Well, we decided at that point, we talked to the special education department again, which was really cool at his school, and said, okay, he qualifies because of the speech and because of some other issues. Do we need to use the label to get him help? And they said no. And so we chose not to have him go through with autism, which looking back may not have been the best idea, because then he was just known as a quirky kid who had issues staying in class and issues with anger, issues with friends. He would be the kid that as they were playing football, he would run along the sides and do commentary about the football, which I, of course, enjoy. But needless to say, was not very well thought of with fifth graders, as they were wondering why he didn't play football. And this goes back to some of my dreaming with him. You see, growing up, I didn't have a dad that played football with me or played catch with me. And so when we had our son, and we didn't know before he was born, I cannot even tell you how excited I was that I would have a kid that I was hoping would be involved in sports and much better at sports than I ever was. A kid that would want to play these sports, hopefully be good at them. A kid that would sit with me on the couch and watch sports. Sports is a little important to me, as you can tell. Well, that wasn't Hunter. With his fine motor skills, he has never had any desire to do any sports. He did karate, which was fantastic for him. But throw a football around? No thanks, Dad. Hey, you want to throw a baseball around? No thanks, Dad. Very polite, but it was obvious from kindergarten and through school, this was not going to be the sports dude that I thought I was going to have. So then it's like, okay, not going to do sports. At least he has a good sense of humor, we thought at the time. At least, and so we looked at what are all the positives about him. Okay, so sports is out, but he really is a friendly guy. Well, unfortunately, with social skills deficit, because then we're like, okay, well, maybe, he'll have friends and they'll be over and we can become that house. Growing up, I always wanted our house to be that house. In the household that I grew up with, we didn't want to have anybody over. It just wasn't a polite place to be. And so I really wanted our house to be that house where all the kids came. Well, his social anxiety matched with his social skills meant that there really wasn't a lot of friendships going on. There weren't invitations to the parties. And that was hard on him and that was hard on me. So I'm not going to have an athlete. I'm not going to have the social butterfly. He's missing milestones. He's hiding under his desk at school. And then, of course, because of the way that life goes, we were in a very chaotic home situation at the time. And so I know I missed a lot of stuff. I know I didn't see stuff that I think I should have seen. And do I wish maybe we had done a few things differently? Hell yeah, that's part of life, is looking back and saying, yep, coulda, but I didn't. But where are we at today? Are we okay today? Because I can't change those decisions. Well, eventually one of the highlights is that he did get his black belt in karate, which took a lot of work on his part, took a lot of driving and pushing on our part, and took a karate instructor who had to learn that he had to physically put Hunter into the position that Hunter needed to be in to do the forms, because his neurology was such that if he said just cross your legs, he would stand there because the neurons weren't clicking yet. But if you crossed his legs, then it started that pathway and it started to work for him. So I'm like, okay, maybe karate is going to be his thing. And so I'm like, do you want to go on and be a second degree? He's like, yeah, sure. Well, it became obvious after about a year or so is that it's possible that they didn't push him as hard as they did other students for his black belt. But for the second degree, they certainly weren't going to individualize it at all. And so his friends would become second degree black belt, but he would be passed over because he just wasn't ready yet. And we had to take a long look at, would he ever be ready according to their standards? And together with him, we're like, is this what you want to do? And he's like, no, I think I'm done with karate. And we're like, fine, you can be done with karate. At this point, he was able to drive himself. So I was thrilled for him to continue in karate. Go, go, go. But he's like, no, I'm done. I'm like, okay, I don't see this going anywhere positive. So go ahead, let's be done. So we let him drop out of that. At this point, we had moved away from Madison and had made a decision to homeschool. It is as good as the special education was at the school he was at. We discovered that one of his problems was having 30 other people in class. It was just too much for him, and there wasn't anything the teacher could really do, and he wasn't severe enough, I guess, to have an aide. And so he wasn't learning because he wouldn't stay in class. So my wife, being the awesome soul that she is, decided to homeschool our two kids. After doing that for a few years, we looked at an online school, which he ended up doing online high school for all 4 years of high school, and that worked out really well for him. But then we get back to the problem of what do we do with the social? So we got him involved in 4-H. So he ended up getting involved in 4-H, which was wonderful, good group of friends, a small group of friends, but still not the type, he still wasn't going over anywhere, wasn't bringing friends over. So we had to rethink, well, what else? What else is going to happen? What else? How is he going to find friends? How is he going to socialize? And we were pretty much at a loss. Well, he ended up graduating, which was amazing to us. So we had a couple of goals that we were able to do. One was that he would graduate high school, and I swear the only way he did it is because it was an online school, and my wife supporting him in that online school. I don't know what it would have been like in a regular school for him. It wasn't easy for me, and he has enough of me in him that I knew that it wasn't going to be easy for him. Luckily, he has some loving grandparents that helped him as well. It's a 4-H project that he's working on, which was fantastic. But we really did place a lot of what we wanted to accomplish, a lot of our energy into graduating high school, a lot of energy in getting through. Education was just very important to my wife and I. And so it was very important for our kids. Looking back on it, was there maybe a little too much emphasis on actually getting through instead of giving him the rounded education and socialization that maybe he could have used? Yeah. I look back on that and go, yeah, there we definitely missed out on some stuff. But he graduated because we put that out there in front of him and said, with support, you can do this, dude. No, you can do this. And it took a lot of nights and a lot of patience and a lot of creativity. And I remember spending hours just trying to have him dictate a paper to me so that he could get a paper turned in, because his fine motor skills never like suddenly emerged. And so he still wasn't writing, and his typing was never going to be anything speedy. And he just really, he didn't like writing. So we helped him out where we could. I would never imagine that all that work that we put in high school and in writing, and having him tell us what he thought the answer was and adapting it that way. Now he's in his 20s and he loves writing. I don't know where that came from, but it's great. he comes up with his own stories and he writes them down. He has his own method of typing. He's never going to be a speed demon, but it works for him. And I'm not going to try to fix anything that is working for him. Do I wish that, he would have done SpongeBob typing like I told him to? Yeah, absolutely. But I watch him type and he's doing just fine. He's doing just fine his way. With his friends through the few friends that he had through high school, is we noticed early on that he was tracking pretty much 2 years behind. And so we knew that as all these other kids are hitting milestones, there was no way Hunter was going to hit those milestones on time. But we were very fortunate that we also saw that we believed that he could. And so we kept dreaming about graduation. We kept dreaming about, well, wouldn't it be great if you could drive? Now, that was 3 years of something else. A number of failures, a couple of accidents. He is a very, for the most part, a safe driver. I'll tell you one thing, he doesn't speed. He follows the rules, comes to a complete stop, always uses his blinker. But trying to help him see the world outside of just going forward. What's to your left? What's to your right? Without distracting him from the road was a learning experience for all of us. So we helped him be able to drive. He is now an owner of a car, which is amazing in its own right. But he loves it and he's learning to take care of it, which is something bizarre because I never learned how to take care of a car. So that was never a dream I had of my kids. I knew my kids would never figure out how to take care of a car because I have no idea how to take care of cars. So he graduates high school, and then of course we get to the graduation parties. And everybody's going to say, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? What's going on? Are you going to go to college? And he had made it very clear during senior year that he was done with school. This was just, I am not going to college. That's it. And so he said, well, what do you want to do? He's like, I have no idea. So he ended up getting a job at a assisted living home, first in dietary help, but then he had some issues with the chemicals in the kitchen. And so then he, for some reason, I think it was the steam from the dishwasher, he ended up being in janitorial. But it was also through this time that he was able to tell people, yep, this isn't what I want to do, but it's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to work. I'm like, okay, that is so cool. So he went ahead and entered the workforce. I cannot tell you how many discussions we had. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? I mean, I'm a fairly intelligent person, and so I would pull off interest inventories over here. We run through this interest inventory over here. What do you think about botany? How about entomology? What do you think about this? You want to do this? Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, that'd be great. But nothing. But what do you really want to do? I don't know. What are you interested in? How do you dream with someone who's not interested in anything? So we tried our best to introduce him to volunteer opportunities. We did our best to support him in work, but it still didn't go perfectly well. What we didn't know is that besides the autism is his anxiety and depression were getting the best of him. He ended up checking himself in to the lockdown unit over at St. Mary's to deal with some suicidal thoughts. Knowing my background, this is not where I thought my son would end up. He also decided that as an adult that he wanted to get tested for autism. And so we found him a psychologist, and sure enough, he went through testing, and sure enough, psychologist said, oh yeah, he's a really good compensator. But yeah, so he had the diagnosis, he has the diagnosis. And now he also has mental health struggles on top of it. And I look back and I think back to what I thought I would have as kids. And I think back to that sports people that I would have. My daughter's not into sports either. I thought that there would be these awesome bonding times. And I have a kid who is fantastic and I love to pieces, but grew up as the quirky kid who has some social struggles, who is just now learning what a sense of humor means and how to tell a good joke. Which in our family, this is really rather important that you understand sarcasm. So he's learning sarcasm every day, which for good or bad, it's our family is what it is. But one of the main things that really helped Hunter is he got through his hospital stay, went into counseling, got on some medication, started to level out. And once he got on that medication, started to level out, all of a sudden when we would say, well, what do you want to do? He was very firm that he did not want to be a janitor for the rest of his life. He didn't know what he wanted to do, but he was willing to check things out. And this was a new development for him, is waiting for him to develop these milestones on his own time, never giving up, but doing it on Hunter's time. So we were able to get him involved in DVR. Lo and behold, they did their assessments, and because they're not his parents, he listened to what the end of that assessment was, and turns out that he really wants to be a veterinary technician. We didn't have any pets growing up for him growing up because I'm allergic, but he loves animals. He just told me the other day that sometimes he likes animals more than humans because they listen better and they seem to understand him more. So we've got him into the Madison College route. Right now, he is able to take some pre-classes. We're hoping that he starts the actual vet tech in the fall. We had no idea that this is what he wanted to do. But as far as we know, he's attending class. He just told me the other day that he went to get help on a writing assignment. This kid asking for help is an amazing thing. That never would have happened. Never thought it would happen. So there's a quick rundown. Some of you are thinking, no, Tim, really, that wasn't that quick, but hopefully a quick rundown of Hunter's story. So what have I learned about dreaming and redreaming? One of the most important things that I've learned is Hunter is Hunter. There is absolutely positively no one else like him in this world. And that's same for every single kid that's out there. It's just that our kids with special needs, sometimes we have to look a little bit harder and we have to dig a little bit deeper. We have to be a little bit more patient to find out who that kid is, what Hunter's strengths are. What is the timeline that they're on? Are there milestones they're not going to reach? Okay, cool. That can happen. But are there milestones that they're just going to reach after their kids? And what do you do when you sit there and you have a school system that runs like this train that's just going on down the track, as someone wants to explain to me, it's just going on down the track, and our kids sort of get off because they have to do their own thing for a while, and when they get back on, everybody else is already further down the track. But where they're at, they're not getting what they need. And so we have to supplement that and make sure that they get what they may never catch up, whatever. He's on his own track. Hunter is Hunter. Your kids are your kids. And so as I dream with Hunter, it's a matter of knowing who he is and not squashing anything. You know, when he said he wanted to be a writer, and that he wanted to write stories, my first response was, dude, do you know how much stress, how much hair I lost, how much time I lost trying to get you to write a simple sentence for school? But I didn't say that. I said, well, what does he want to write about? Oh, so you want to write about, he's into wargaming. And so you want to write about the miniature war games that you do, and you want to form stories around there. Cool, you go for it, dude. And so he just started writing stories. I don't know where that'll go with him, but he still wants to write. All right, you go for it, Hunter. So Hunter is Hunter. Your kid, your child's your child. Dreaming and redreaming is a process of getting to know them and knowing them at the different stages. Is he changed immensely between kindergarten and fifth grade, just like all kids do? And then that 2 years or so after high school, it was very hard, but it helped him set his course. Having to redream after some mental health challenges, is hard. Just like I know parents that I work with, there's certain diagnoses that, I talk to them and they're like, well, how can I just dream for this year? I'm like, yeah, dream for a week, dream for a month. Don't worry about life, but just keep having hope. The other thing that I learned is that I had to get my junk out of the way. I'm sorry, but we all carry some crap in our lives. We carry it from, you can hear, I'm sure, my family of origin junk and how the effect was on my family, on my parenting. Well, if I don't recognize that stuff, if I don't deal with that stuff, then I'm going to leak it all over my kids. And so I had to learn that I had to get my junk out of here. How many of my dreams or expectations were based on my own life? Were based on my own wants, my own desires to do it better, to have my kids do it better, for my kids to have a better life. It's a great goal, but is it realistic in the ways that I want them to have a better life? What does a better life mean for them? What does that mean for Hunter? And so I had to learn early on that part of being able to dream with my kids was I needed to recognize my own junk, and I needed to get my junk out of the room. The other thing that I learned early on is to find others. I can't do this alone. I can't dream with my kid alone. I get into those places where it gets really dark and really narrow, and I really do believe that it would be horrible if he stayed in my basement for the rest of his life. But that's not true. Number one, it's not horrible if he does that. It's not the end of the world. Number two, it may not happen. But if I don't have other people around me that are reminding me to dream, other people around me that are saying, yeah, but what about this? Or telling me to take a break, telling me to take a breath, to calm down. I need those people in my life so that I can be the best person I can be to help my kid. If I don't take care of myself, I'm not going to be able to dream. I'm not going to be able to redream. I will get stuck if I am not healthy. And the other key for me has been just a sense of joy. Is changing from, oh no, this is a challenge, this is a deficit, this is from that moment of we think he should be tested, to just some fantastic time that I have had with him now. The kid had some sensory issues. He'll now go to concerts with me. It just, he's able to grow. And I need to watch what he is doing and be aware of the new things that he is doing so that I can redream dreams with him, so that I don't sit there and think of him full of the deficits he had when he was in fifth grade, but look at the man that he's becoming today. Now, that may not happen in the same way. It won't happen the same way for every kid, but I very much believe that we each grow and that we each continue to change through our life. I don't think anybody stays set. I think we can all find new things. I think we can all find new experiences. But it's really hard to expose some of our kids to new experiences. but it's worth the struggle, because at the end of that is a joy of knowing that this person is living the life they want to live, is they're doing what they're interested in, that they're making as many decisions for themselves as they possibly can. Now, the other part about Hunter being Hunter is I know a lot of families who what has been possible with Hunter is not going to be possible in the same way with their kid. I know. But I think the core of figuring out who your kid is, the ins and outs, the getting my junk out of the way, finding support in others, and choosing joy are ways that any parent can dream and then redream. Is we all have expectations when our kids are born. And then we figure out that those expectations aren't going to happen. And so we redream, we reset our expectations. We find that the friends are not the friends that we want them to be. And so we need to rethink, how are they going to make friends? Maybe their academics don't come out that there's an intellectual disability that we didn't even realize, or maybe a mental health struggle. Okay, step back and move forward. Because we can't stay stuck. One of the worst things that happens to me is when I get stuck. And that's when I need others to help me unstuck.
Tim, are you interested in taking a question at this time?
Yes, because that's pretty much the end of the Tim being Tim, as Hunter is Hunter. And then I just have a couple other resources at the end. So this would be a beautiful time, Bonnie.
Okay, so our questioner asks, how, as a parent, have you been able to deal with any feelings of guilt and feelings of anger?
Successfully, rarely, unsuccessfully, a lot. One of the ways that I deal, because talk about, oh my gosh, I look at the kid and people are just like, he looks just like you. And I'm like, you have no idea how much he is like me. I mean, there are times where I believe every single deficit that he has is from me. I feel very guilty about what I did do and what I didn't do. So one of the ways that I think parents can deal with, and one of the ways that I've dealt with it, is number one, just staying overall healthy, physically, mentally, emotional healthy. When we're not well, we can't deal with our emotions well. I've also learned, as much as I hate to think that I can't change the past, I really can't change the past. I want to change the past. I want there to be a way that I can go back and make a different decision, but there isn't. And so if I dwell there, if I still live in that past, then I'm missing out on where Hunter is today. And that's what depression does to me when I struggle with depression, is it pulls me away from the present. And so I think one of the ways to deal with guilt and anger is to do everything that I can to stay in the present, to stay present with Hunter. I personally have also found working in forgiveness and working through those hurts, working through my junk, has helped get rid of some of the anger and guilt as I work to forgive myself, because there's a lot more mistakes that I made than just with Hunter. There's things that I did that set me up to be whatever parent I am today, and some of those were good and some of them were bad. And so I've worked hard at learning how to forgive myself, of letting go of that anger against me. And that's been very freeing. Hasn't been easy, but it's been freeing. The other thing that I know some parents have done in dealing with guilt and anger is to find friends that'll serve as honest sounding boards that they could sit there and say, okay, this is what I'm really mad about. Can you help me talk through it? Because sometimes we get mad about something. Like, I was really ticked at the school a couple of times, and somebody had to walk me through and go, okay, what are you really mad about? Are you mad at the school? Are you mad at the loss of your control? Are you mad at how they're treating him? Are they mad at how you're treating you? Because I just get mad, and then everything's mad. And so having people that I could talk through and almost diagnose by asking me good questions, diagnose what the anger was about, was really very helpful. So there's a few things, and very much believe that we're in this together, and find other people that we can talk to about it. Because the other thing that I found out is that a lot of what was going on with my kid, other parents had already gone through. And there was a really cool feeling. As much as I hated it for them, there was also this feeling of, hey, I'm not alone. And I see families that are further down the road than mine. And I'm like, all right, I'm not alone. There's chances out there that I haven't even thought about. That's where I want to spend my time. I want to spend my time in the present, and I want to spend my time dreaming. I can't spend it in the past. Any other questions, Bonnie?
Yeah, sort of as a follow-up to what you just said, if you have some friends or a friend that you confide in and use as your sounding board, how can you avoid what sometimes might feel like you're burdening them with the issues that you have because you still want to maintain their friendship?
Yep, and it's a great question, and it's hard. One of the things that I've done with some of my friends is I let them know when it's a deeper conversation or when I need to lean on them. And very upfront with them, can you handle this? Because there's some people that can't, and you end up leaning on the wrong person, and then they collapse, and then you're lost. And so ask that person, are you able to deal with some of the deep? Because some of my friends can't deal with the deep stuff, and some of them can. And so number one, checking in with them, making sure that they're willing to do that. But then the other thing that I really believe in is that with our friends, to make sure that every interaction is not about our kids. That when I have time on the phone or when I go out with my friends, every conversation wasn't about Hunter. Is that I was active in their life, that I had other things going on in my life. Is nobody, it's hard, but we need to be who we are apart from our children. We have needs. We have desires as well. And as much as I very much believe in sacrificing for our kids, and there's sometimes where it feels that's all I'm doing and that's all I did, the reality is that, yeah, I need friends as sounding boards, but I also need someone to play cards with. And I also need someone to commiserate about the weather with. I need to be normal in some areas of my life, and it can't all be about my kid. I need to look at balance, and I need to look at being healthy. Anything else?
One other thing, um, how can you avoid, and I think it's probably directly related to what you just said, having this home situation be something that's not all consuming every minute of your day?
Yeah, and let me tell you, with some kids, it's harder than others. There are some parents that I admire so much. But the successful parents that I see, even those with kids with high needs, are those that, as much as their kid may be their whole heart, it's not their whole life. I would do anything in the world for my kids, but I also know that I'm a better dad to them when I'm in a good relationship with their mom. That when I'm a better husband, I'm a better dad. when I am a healthier person, I'm a better dad. And so finding those areas, and it may be just 5-10 minutes at a time, but where it's disconnected from it's so powerful when you're involved in someone's life that you need to be aware of what they are doing, sometimes every moment of the day in some people's cases. I don't want to use the word draining, because we do it because we love, and it's not a negative. We do it because we love, but we also have to realize that we need to be connected apart from them. And the better we are at balancing our lives, the better we're going to be for them, because we want their life to be balanced as well. I know I've heard a lot of parents say, I just don't want my kid to grow up thinking he's a diagnosis. Yeah, totally agree. No matter how severe the needs are, they are more than their diagnosis. They're more than their behaviors. They're more than their medical needs. Well, the way that we can show them that they're more is by having our own lives to model that there's more to life than just taking care. And like I said, I know it's harder than crap to do some of the time. But by modeling a balance, by modeling there's more to life than this disorder, more to life than this just disease. I have friends that are more than just a support group. Our family, does fun things, especially if there's other kids involved. We had to be very cautious. I mean, to this day, I think, well, luckily Sammy's maturing, but she spoke about how she felt that Hunter was always a favorite because we always spent so much time with him. So we have to be aware that our life is bigger than the special healthcare need. And that can take some work and creativity.
Well, thank you for that honest answer. I appreciate that. And then one last question that I have for you is, what is your opinion of the practice of mindfulness?
I love opinion questions because I don't have to be an expert on them. My opinion is that I try my best to be mindful. I try my best to remain present, as I said before, but I'm not very good at it. I'm not very good at doing meditations 1, 2, 3, however many nights in a row. But what I'm working on is trying to be more aware of, and I think this is a mindfulness practice, more aware of what I am feeling and how I am reacting. Because what I noticed in my life is the fact that I would go right to a reaction and I'd go right to an analysis, and then I'd be somewhere where I didn't want to be. And so what I've been working on recently is just trying to be more aware of what I'm feeling, more aware of what I'm thinking. What am I saying to myself? I believe one of the things mindfulness, I very much believe, is a sense of we have to figure out what the hell we're saying to ourselves. Because if I'm going around all day telling myself how bad of a parent I am and how nothing ever good is going to happen, then that's probably what I'm going to find. And so I have to watch my own self-talk. I have to watch the way that I think and I talk about my kids. And so that's part of mindfulness I very much try to embrace, because there's this moment between what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking, and then what I do is there's that space in there. And if I can figure out how to be in that space before getting to the reaction, then I get to change my reaction. So in that aspect, I love mindfulness. in the aspect of I feel really guilty because I don't meditate every single night, and I have a number of different apps and I have a number of different things that I should to be able to do meditation better. Yeah, let's go back to that guilt thing. I feel guilty that I'm not better at it. I don't think it's an answer to all the problems, but I think being aware of what we're saying to ourselves, aware of our feelings, and that we have the space to make decisions in, I think I could just say that it's been very valuable for me. I don't know if it would work for everybody, but it's been very valuable for me.
Okay, thank you. That's the questions.
Okay, let me just close then. Letting you guys know a little bit about where I work for. I work for Children and Youth with Special Health Care Needs Network at one of the 5 regional centers. We have a whole bunch of people that we want to use to help. Family Voices has some fantastic fact sheets that we use. ABC for Help helps us with figuring out the health benefits. Parent to Parent in Wisconsin, a parent matching organization. If you're looking for another parent to talk to, let's say you're somewhere in rural Wisconsin and there's no one really around, call your regional center and say you'd like to talk to somebody at Parent to Parent, and they will find a parent for you to talk to. Along with older kids, such as my kid, working on health transition. How is he going to take care of his own health care? Finding him adult doctors, all those good things, which does not happen simply in a system. Again, the core of what we do is the 5 regional centers. Each regional center has information referral specialists. A lot of them are parents of children with special health care needs themselves. Please reach out to them. We love questions like, I don't even know why I'm calling, because then we can talk to you about, okay, well, what's going on? What are the needs that you have? Where do you need support? Are you looking for a resource? Really just trying to figure out what we can do to help you navigate the system, because it's not an easily understood system. So thank you. I hope somewhere along the line something came through that is useful to you. It's a tough topic. And I just hope that there was something that has been able to help someone out there. All I know is I remember a quote that went something, like somebody said, wow, you must be really strong to be a special needs parent. And the person responded with, no, I'm strong because my kid has made me strong. I didn't start strong. I learned to be strong because I had to. That's fantastic, but we also have to remember we need to learn how to take care of ourselves, and we need to remember to keep hope in front of everything that we do. I could not have imagined Hunter being where he is right now. And that lets me imagine with him where he could end up in 5 to 10 years. So feel free to take stock of the past, but don't live there. Do your best to be present with your kids, and remember you're more than your own kid's diagnosis. Live your life apart from special health care needs as well, as best you can. Don't guilt yourself. You're doing a fantastic job. How do I know that? Because you're on this friggin' call. Because you're reaching out for more. You're trying to figure out what more, how more can I love my kid? That's how I know that you're fantastic parents. Thank you for doing what you're doing for our kids and what you're doing for other parents. Go do amazing things. Thanks, Bonnie.
Well, thank you very much, Tim. We really appreciate your poignant presentation today. I'm sure that all of those that are on the webinar with you would definitely agree. So thank you again. Also to everybody, this will conclude our webinar. We'd like to thank you for joining us today. Please be reminded that Wisconsin Facets has over 80 scheduled trainings and webinars for the year 2020. Please check our website calendar and register for any of the upcoming trainings that you may be interested in. And also please watch for the short evaluation that will be coming your way after this live webinar today. I'd like to thank you again. Have a great day, everybody. And Tim, thank you so very much. Bye-bye, everybody.